Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is your favorite Dark Sorcerer here, and jealous son of Abaddon. And tonight I'd like to discuss a little bit about experiences. The type of experiences that can only be gained through extensive research, study, practice, and experimentation of rituals that gain both, well, let's just call it failure, but also beneficial techniques within any form of magic, be it spiritual conjuration or even if it's a partial summoning. Okay. There's a lot that occurs within your inner sanctum, especially when you are performing a ritual or a rite. A question came up today or earlier this evening about mediumship and clairvoyancy, empathic abilities, stuff like this. So I've been kind of meditating on this and thinking about this for the last couple of hours, off and on. So I thought I'd take a moment and kind of just discuss some things. The first thing is, how do you become a medium or an empath? Well, it's things that you develop over time by attuning yourself, your soul, your spirit, your body, your five senses to the energies and currents around you. It's not just the currents within you, particularly. No, it's that and what's outside of you. There's numerous different planes of existence that even within your own conscious states that you can get into and tap into. It's things that you become more and more aware of as time goes by. It's not something that you can just do a ritual or a ceremony or whatever and have, like say something out of sci-fi where somebody walks over and taps you on the forehead and goes, "Boop, you see all things now." No, it's nothing like that. It's more of the fact that you develop the muscles within your own mind. When you learn how to meditate, it takes a lot of time to practice the right comfortable setting for you as the individual. It may be laying down where you can learn to astral project, or you can sit in a chair with your feet planted, feet, face down. So you're literally flat footed on the floor, sitting in a chair. You could be sitting Indian style on a pillow. It's whatever is comfortable for you that will allow you to relax, but at the exact same time, sit back and kind of stay alert. You don't want to get too relaxed because you'll doze off and fall asleep. You want to be in that intermediary area, that arena where you're comfortable, but not to the point where you're going to doze off. Yeah, I'm the same way. I always did like the floor, but my favorite happens to be Indian style. It doesn't matter if it's in a chair or on the floor. As long as I'm able to sit Indian style, I'm comfortable. That's just me though. But I started out doing it on the floor though, before I got to a pillow that somebody right next to me here, a little fur ball, ended up taking over that pillow. So we ended up having to get rid of it. But and yes, I'm referring to this little one here. So it is that factor of getting into a state where you're able to calm yourself and find that center. Now, a lot of people have a hard time sitting for long periods of time because they either get antsy or they get to the point where they fall asleep, or they get discouraged because they're not really getting that experience, the benefits out of it. One of the things I talk about with my students is you have to find what works for you. And it doesn't matter what system of magic or sorcery you get into, as long as you find the currents that work in league with what you're going for. For an example, I've got one client or one apprentice that when he meditates, he utilizes the Kundalini. It's something that's worked well for him. Okay. I have another one that uses the chakras and he envisions the discs, spiraling discs of different colors. Okay. For me, I utilize death energy. Okay. As a necromancer and traditional Satanist, I really like the aspects of the tree of death. Okay. Lowering my heartbeat, lowering my pulse, my blood pressure, and getting into a state where it's dead silence. I've been told that there is a darkness in me, and that's not a lie. There really is a darkness inside me personally. But when you tap into something like that through a current within the meditative state where either you go to a deity and you summon them to meditate with you to open you up, they're going to do just that. Now, over 30 years, just about 30 years that I've been practicing and living day to day as a sorcerer, as a magician, as a practitioner of the dark arts, one of the things that came apparent was you have to welcome these beings with open arms. You can't sit there and take it half-assed. Like, say, if you ask for a position to be opened up at work, you can't just simply say, okay, I'll accept the position, but I didn't like how I ended up getting there. Okay, that's basically accepting half of it. You really have to accept the whole thing within yourself and what they do for you. Work when you open yourself up to these currents, to becoming more sensitive. Seers tend to be aligned with the nexus, or what I refer to as the nexus, which is the balance of the timelines between reality and spiritual nature. A fine way of explaining this would be to look at the shaman. A shaman stands with one foot in the grave or into the spirit realm and the other here in the physical. A necromancer does the exact same thing, but with one foot in the grave, the other world in the living. So you're living both worlds. A seer and a medium is similar in nature. Something traumatic that takes place in somebody's life can really affect their sensitivity. They become more aware through these traumatic experiences. But these traumatic experiences can also be a hindrance. Okay. One of the things that we do as here in the mortal coil is whatever pain that we receive, be it physical lashings, be it a beating, be it, say, for example, harsh words, emotional abuse, whatever. It doesn't have to be physical, it could be mental or emotional. There's these tiny little things that we just like to push it to the back of our heads. Okay. This creates a volcano effect that really, when it builds up, it's going to explode. This is where all your rage and all your hatred comes out. Think temper tantrum out of the blue and you don't know why. Well, that's why. Okay. The brain, a human being normally uses roughly about 10% of their brain. 10%. Okay. Women, a little bit more, probably about 10 to 20% of their brains, namely because they're more open, which is why they're associated with the feminine aspects of deitas, but also to witchcraft. They represent the birth and rebirth of creation, the life and death. Okay. So when you get into something like this, you really have to be open minded. You have to open yourself up to the currents. Meditation really helps in this case because it allows you to focus your energy on a single topic. Like, say, if you're focusing on a white candle or a black candle, okay, through hexcraft, we use, or even curses, we use a black candle, okay? On a healing aspect, we'd use something like, say, a blue candle or a white candle, which is more celestial in nature, all right? So it's not really the color of the candle, it's more about how you meditate and take it in through auditory responses. Okay, not just verbal, but also vision. Okay. Sounds are also something that's very good. For an example, the type of music that you listen to. Okay. For me, I grew up in the 80s, the 90s. I love everything to do with Rob Zombie to say, for an example, Corn, you know, Disturbed, you know, Kenny Loggins, and many other rock and roll types like AC/DC. I grew up with these things. But for meditation, the one thing that I found works for me is the ends in the demonic ends or for an example, classical music. All right. You take jazz for an example, or that of, say, Mozart, Bach, Supe. This stuff brings out the emotional side of you, and it really allows you to delve deep into your own subconscious. Dealing with your own emotions, dealing with your own inflictions will help you rise to the alpha state of mind. Well, to be glad, I'm glad I'm not the only one who gets those morons. Okay, I've been saying for years they are nothing more than a fucking cult. Okay, that's all they are, a cult. They're just scam artists, which is why I block them. But anyways, as I was saying, uh-huh, just about. I had a guy that claimed to be a major player in that. Even tried to recruit me and then turned around and blocked me. I actually posted on it on Facebook. Now, when you get into a meditative state and you start becoming more aware, letting go of control, okay? This is the one issue that I keep coming up against with my own apprentices and with those who come to me for lessons is they're afraid of letting go, okay? Afraid of letting go. When you let go of all your fears, it's okay, brother. It really is. I don't mind it. And when you let go of that fear and you instead embrace it, think about it this way. What's the worst that can happen? You fall over? You know what I'm saying? Or perhaps, you jerk yourself awake. The first time I let go, I was in my altar room. I wasn't in full get up, I was just meditating. This is back before my son's mom and I got together. And it was a time in my life where I was ready to just simply walk away from the world. And it was just a few years ago. I was going to go into a state of seclusion and just simply walk away because nothing was going, the way I wanted. Things that I didn't really open up fully about. But it wasn't until I started being honest with myself and who I am and what I needed to be that things really kicked into overdrive and started working. I was sitting in my altar room, sitting in the chair, meditating. I had all the candles going, the incense, just sitting there. I didn't call on any being. I didn't, do any invocations or evocations. I just sat there and I had my eyes closed and I started holding my breath, from time to time. A lot of breathing exercises deal with 5-second intervals. You breathe in for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and repeat. Okay. Taking basically oxygenating the blood, which stimulates the mind. But as I said, you have to find what works for you. Okay. And this particular day, I was just sitting there and I was just thinking in my own head while I was focusing on my life, what I was doing. And all of a sudden I heard bleed on the altar, bleed on the altar. And I was thinking, okay, blood sorcery. Now I didn't do it right off the bat. I waited probably about a week or two before I ended up actually doing it. And things started happening. Things I didn't quite expect. The energy started building up intensely within my inner sanctum. I started placing them on seals and other aspects, and they started opening up. Basically, the portals, the gates. Recently, within the last week or so, couple of weeks, I've really been focusing on the necromantic aspects of my life. But here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. You can be told that there's a darkness in you. You can be told that you are cruel. You can be told that you're the kind of guy that will fight to the death for your family. It doesn't matter what you're told. But when the gods themselves show you something, and I actually posted this in a group to get some advice on because it's not very often that you see yourself. Well, let's just say in a ritual setting with yourself. And it kind of threw me off because of the fact that there's a lot of initiationary processes within just about every philosophy, every religion, along with meditative states within summonings of more often becoming a medium, an empath, whatever. Now, this is nothing new because I've been feeling everything for a long time. The hatred coming from people, the frustrations, the sadness. It doesn't matter if it's on a TV screen or full view at work. It's the same exact thing. You feel it, you see it, it's there. Mediumship, such as being a reader, you hear people's thoughts. You can tune into that aspect. Seers tend to sit there and see spirits no matter where they are. In necromancy, we tend to hang out a lot at graveyards and areas where death takes place, such as hospitals. Today, I ended up going to the hospital because of my leg, my knee, and I had been there probably about an hour, just about an hour. I got taken in back, the whole kit and caboodle. Had my vitals done, you know. Had a lot of things, people come in, talk to me, and I didn't realize it at the time, but my energy had improved. The pain in my leg was starting to go away. It could have been that chair I was sitting in, but it was there. I didn't even realize that thing could recline. So if you're ever in the ER, check it out because those little chairs that they sit you in can actually recline. But here's the kicker. This is the kicker. I was thinking about that vision I had. I started working with Cornerbog, okay? Colonel the Dark God, delving in with Adnaan, okay? The teacher. He's the teacher of mystics. I started working with him. You know, I drew a sigil. I've got it sitting on my altar table. It's just been sitting there. I haven't done anything with it. And yet I'm learning, even though I'm not even near it. I started thinking about everything from death to the energies, the anger, that ritual setting of a vision that I had. All before the x-ray technician came in. And it dawned on me. It dawned on me right here. The 29th is the day that Zazazel descended or ascended, depending on which way you want to look at it, from human to the buried king, Lord of Caractères. It was just right there in my head. I don't know if it was one of these beings that put it there, kind of just sent that inkling towards me. But I could see, since then, I've been able to see things happen as though it's in slow motion. It's like I got a feeling I've been somewhere before, you know? And ironically, the doctor. Seen the doctor before, twice. And here we are. I got told yesterday when I posted this vision in the group, I was told, trust in the law of three. Trust in the law of three. At first, I was thinking, is he referring to the Wiccan and pagan law of three, where the law of return? But then when I was reading down through it, he said, if it occurs three times, the law of three, the law of when things happen more than three times, then it's perfected. Okay. When things keep coming your way. I was working with a money sigil, and I ended up getting more money than I should have on my paycheck this past week. The last 2 days, it's been sitting literally on my altar table. First that, then this. Told about the law of three, getting that inkling about Zazazel, his ascension. And tonight, while I've been home, all I can think about, all I can think about is meditating, mediumship, necromancy, that Da'ath current, that death essence, and how it relates to so many things. And then I saw that posting within a group chat. How would you define mediumship? How would you define, or discerning, I should say, who is a medium? Who is an empath? Well, to discern that, I would say it takes many years for a dedicated practitioner to become sensitive to those energies and work towards what their goal is. The more you work with the dead, the more sensitive you become. Because the dead, especially that of the spirit world, are former witches, former occupants, the disincarnate human being. Working with demons are more empathic, perhaps even conjurations, because conjuration is, in a sense, part of mediumship these days. Everything's been thrown into one word. The term and definition of mediumship has been thrown in of everything from seers to conjurers to um, empaths to readers. Okay, all of this stuff has been thrown into one. When people think of necromantic practices, they forget that it used to be known as chiromancy. Okay, nigro from the Greek definition is the working of the dead. Okay, working with corpses and such like that. 500 years ago, it was associated with vampiric practices and associated with spiritual summonings, spiritual workings through herbs and other things. It's been spelled NEC or NIC, NYC, okay? Necromancy, nigromancy, and such. Now, nigromancy, the art of black magic or the practice of black magic, was associated with the original necromantic workings that was associated with shamanism or being equivalent to shamanic practices of working with the dead, working with herbs and plants and other things before it's got separated. So, working with this, my definition of mediumship is something that you have to open up to. You have to be sensitive to it. Now, Bophimet X here, I've seen just about every single video that he's put up. His videos are amazing, and there's no doubt in my mind that he has achieved mediumship. His workings are amazing. I've seen what I've done through videos when I've gone in and done rituals. The mediumship that I do compared to what he has done, he literally has opened himself up to these spirits to where they come in through evocation. When I do evocation or even invocations, the spirit partially manifests. I hear it. I hear it speaking behind my ear. I feel the temperature changing within the altar room, the energetic currents changing, to watching the energy within the flames of the candles going nuts through pyromancy, through chanting, or even a mantra. I've seen that energy built up, that current. And the question comes down, can I do it again? You see, that's the law of three. If you can do it successfully 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and you continuously do it, this is opening yourself up to those currents. It's literally being able to channel them. You see, channeling is another form of mediumship that allows an individual to channel a deity, such as a demon, a spirit. It's very, very awesome. The reason for that, Lolan, is because of the fact that Those who are recently disincarnate, they've left this plane of existence, have expelled such energy, that force, that they've blown out into the universe. They've become more aware, more conscious of the next stage of evolution. Those who have had a near death experience to where their life falls and, flashes between their eyes, or they've had, like, say, for example, a stroke, a heart attack, perhaps something that occurs on a cellular cellular, level, that they have to be taken to the hospital in. About 10 years ago, I was sitting, I was associated with this girl. She was a Pentecostal. And I ended up going down to Tucson with her, and that's where we parted. And I came back, and I tried to make um, a play for, you know, that region again. Try to find myself in that area. Now, normally when that music starts up, I get queasy. I get a little warm, because I really don't like it. It was just something that made my skin crawl, and I didn't understand it at the time. But here's the kicker: this particular day, I was lightheaded, nauseous, literally ready to puke. I was so hot, I felt like I was going to pass out. I could have told you that I sat down, closed my eyes, removed my glasses. I could tell you what the announcements were, what the sermon was about, what the closing aspects of that service was about, all within about 3 seconds. Because when I opened my eyes, I had a woman that I knew was a nurse taking my pulse to my right. I had a guy to my left claiming to be a doctor. I had a bunch of people sitting there talking in tongues. When I got to the hospital by ambulance, they ran a lot of tests. My breathing, my strength, my vitals, the whole kit and caboodle. The only thing they found wrong, I was a little bit dehydrated. A little bit dehydrated. That was it. But since then, I've been drawn to the spirit realm, drawn to it. There's just something about it. I can speak to things that I see in the shadows. I know who they are: shadow people, demons. I see things before they happen. I've been doing that for years. This is a form of mediumship. It's things that have developed over time, starting with being hit in the face by a baseball bat. Third grade, right there. Snapped a Louisville Slugger right over my face. Didn't give me a concussion, didn't do anything. A few weeks later, my first visual appearance by Lucifer. I didn't see him again until I was around 15 years old. And again, right after this incident from this church. Since then, I've been worked with many different practices just within this field, getting into every type of spiritual aspects of mediumship. In voodoo, the only way to become possessed by the Loa is if you ask them, if you're open to receive them. In Satanism, demonolatry, You have to conjure them, summon them through some form of ritual. Quimbanda is the same way. Working with the Ugan from Palo Mayumbi, you're calling forth these beings through Santa Ria practices, through arts of black magic, through symbols and runes, through cigar smoke or through alcohol spitting. They're spitting into the Naganga, and you see everything changing, shifting. The light seems to shift. This is all spiritual in nature. For 10 years, I've been heavily into spiritualism ever since that first encounter from a true spiritualist encounter. So to see so many people come forth and ask about spiritualism, asking about mediumships and how they can become it. First of all, there are three methods that I would suggest right off the bat. First of all, you got to build it up. You got to get into it and be open to it. You got to repeatedly summon them, summon these beings forth, give them offerings, give them, you know, gifts. Believe in them, believe that they will come. Two, don't be afraid to delve into other areas of spiritualism. Every single current of mysticism has some form of spiritual encounters. Demonolatry, you summon forth demons. The Kabbalah, the Qliphoth Hermetics deal with angelic beings, jinn even. Middle Eastern, you have the jinn, the genie. African traditions, you have the Loa, the Ugan. Okay, Saint Death herself, even. It's there. Even in Native American lore and tradition, you're dealing with spirits. You're dealing with spiritualism. You learn a lot through delving into the myths, the legends, getting into what things used to be. Okay, but don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves, your proverbial sleeves, and delve into it. Don't be afraid to get into blood sorcery or necromancy, the seven forbidden arts and practices. You know, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Okay, don't be afraid to literally and figuratively toss away your books, burn them. Okay, if something's a religious perspective, like say for example, if you are tied in, your history is tied in with say the JCI, then publicly burning the JCI Bible is a symbolism of breaking away, severing those ties so that you can grow. Okay, and number three, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to humble yourself and go before more experienced mages, sages, okay? Wizards, practitioners of the arts. Don't be afraid to ask them questions. You know, the only thing that's going to stop you there is you. Only you are going to stop yourself from growing in personalized evolution. When I was down in Tucson, and I've talked about this a little bit, I had a Bruja look at me and say that I was standing on two sides of the proverbial sword, a double-edged sword, and that if time ran out, I would be cut in half. At the time, I didn't understand that until I became a Polero. Before I became a Bruja, not a Bruja, but a Bruja. Okay, before I became a Bokor, a Drak, a Warlock, a Sorcerer. The lessons that I've learned have been through trials and errors. And it goes back to one thing: letting go of your fears, letting go from all doubts, and letting go of your everything. It's the only way that you're going to be able to move into these areas to become sensitized or desensitized from the world around you. Let these currents in and let them guide you to where you need to be and believe in them. That is mediumship. That is working with these gods. That's working with these beings of immense power and wealth of knowledge in gnosis. They can teach you, they can guide you, but you got to be open to them. After 30 years of practice, of trial and error, I've had more success in the last 10 years than the previous 20. So if I can tell you that I'm still learning, still growing, that should tell you something, because there's a lot that you can learn. There's so much that we don't know, but you got to seek it out. You got to seek out the knowledge. You got to seek out the truth. Who cares what people think? They can sit there and tell you you're not doing this, you're not doing that. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that. Well, you look at how far I've come. People have said I'd never graduate from high school. I'd never get my black belt. I would never be able to drive a car. Well, guess what? I have my black belt. I graduated from high school. I have my own car. Okay. And I look at what I've done since, shedding my skin like a serpent over and over and over again, just evolving. Some people learn faster than others. And since I've been working with Leviathan this month, 5 other members of the 7 princes of sin, they've revealed a lot to me over the last 6 months. 6 months. Things that I wasn't previously aware of. Others that I was, and you see that connected, those connections. Then Leviathan showing me the envious side of things. Yeah, there are things that I wish I had. Things that I do want. But money, power, wealth, it's not for a sorcerer. It's not for a practitioner. You see, it's nature's way of balancing the scales. There's always a cost to everything we do. Always. And I know this better than everything that I've ever done, because I look back in my path and all there is death, right up into the last couple of years when something good finally came into my life. Something I never thought I'd have. And I was prepared to accept my fate, my destiny. But there it is. In the last year, since I got into necromancy on a professional level, I've seen so much happen. So much. It's downright scary. But only you can get to that point. All right. With that said, have a good day. Good night. I've got to go to work tomorrow. In the next, well, let's just say I got to work the next 4 days. It's going to be interesting to do with a swollen knee. Very sensitive and painful knee, but still, the leg immobilizer works well. And you know something? I should have saw that coming, because my son's mom, what pisses me off the most is I actually had this tool. right in my own arsenal. A leg immobilizer. I just couldn't remember where I put it. So after the X-ray and all that stuff, guess what they gave me? A freaking leg immobilizer. And it's like, yep, sure saw that one coming. So you see, just because you're a medium doesn't mean you see everything. It, yeah, you may have that hunch, you may have that inkling, but it comes down to you if you're going to accept it or not, or even explore it. So, with that said, keep pushing your limits, keep studying, keep going into other path workings, see where it takes you. Don't take anybody's, perspective on things. You can take it with a grain of salt. Find out what works for you and continue to grow. All right? Have a good one. Have a good one, Ethan. Lowland, Black Tower, and Brother Bohemoth X. You guys have a good night and see you next time.